Hello students, welcome to GSS Core. And today the 2023 Mains GS Paper 2 questions for polity, pure constitution. We will try to discuss one by one. The purpose will be to understand that what should be the basic content, and sometimes also what should not be there into the question, right? So that all of you, those who are aspiring or maybe have written, will know before your mains marks are out what exactly you have done. So let's start with one by one. And the first question you can see on the board is there, right? Okay. Okay. So first question on the board is there. Constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence. Guaranteed judicial independence is prerequisite of democracy. The question is generic in the sense that constitutionally guaranteed, this word can also be human rights. This can also be fundamental rights. This can also be separation of power. So this is a very generic question that you have to find out that how to write the answer when the question is about how things are important for the health of the democracy. And therefore the question we have in the hand, that constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence is prerequisite for the democracy. Now whenever a question on prerequisite for democracy comes, then it is very obvious that you have to trace the question here, judicial independence, in the constitution itself. So first you can start directly that Indian constitution provides independence of judiciary through its appointment and removal procedures. Article 124, clause 1, clause 3, XYZ thing through collegium system, and this is what is generally the constitutionally mandated independence of judiciary in India. Now the thing is that you have to say why it is prerequisite for democracy. Prerequisite for democracy, because this is where the whole analysis will go. What we did in introduction, we provided the constitutional provisions for the judicial independence in general sense, whatever is there, basically security of the tenure, security of the salary, benefits and perks, appointment procedure, and more than that, removal procedure. You know, technically here we are not yet writing the NJSC case and all those things. That we will write later. That we will write later. Now the prerequisite of the democracy here means very clearly that if there is no judicial independence in India, then Indian democracy will suffer in providing many other democratic elements of Indian constitution, specifically the separation of power. For example, separation of power between three organs of the government, and second, division of power between center of states, between center and states, require judiciary, means Supreme Court, as the highest interpreter of the constitution. So first thing, if you have to have a democracy which is federal, which is parliamentary, which is written, which is based on rule of law and fundamental rights, then you have to have a Supreme Court which is the highest interpreter, final interpreter of the constitution. And how can you have the final interpreter without the judicial independence? You can't have. You can't have. So only an independent judiciary can establish a balance in the constitution, can create dynamism in the constitution, can check the arbitrary power of the government or the legislature. And why this is important further, you can quote the doctrines which the Supreme Court has given in expansion of fundamental rights, or basically you can write case law judgment basic structure. And this is possible only because of judicial independence. Second last para, then you will write that this has been further established by the Supreme Court in NJSC case, where Supreme Court declared beyond doubt that judicial independence is basic structure of Indian Constitution. It is non-negotiable. Even any kind of majority of the both houses of parliament cannot take away judicial independence. And hence, since then, 2015 Judges Transfer Case 4, it has become very clear that judicial independence, which means that no political interference in the daily functioning of the judiciary, is sine qua non for any democracy, and more so the developing democracy of India. So see how many facts we have written, articles, case, so facts are sufficient, basic structure, then explanation by case law. Then arguments did we give? We gave sufficient arguments, like argument here, political definition we have given. So all the elements which we have given in this question, right? So this is how you have to frame it. Better is not to write conclusion in the first. Conclusion should come only at the end. Okay. Okay, go to the next question, question number 2 of your paper. Who are entitled to receive free legal aid? Very clear cut question, highly factual, descriptive. First part, assess the role of NALSA in rendering free legal aid in India. The answer here is that you will simply write introduction. Introduction is very simple. To implement the Article 39A introduced by 42nd Amendment Act at the instance of the Supreme Court in Hussain Ara Khatun case, the Parliament enacted NALSA 1987. See what we do? How many facts we have given to examiner? We have given fact Hussain Ara Khatun, 39A, 42nd Amendment Act, and NALSA 1987. We have given 4 facts to the examiner to understand that you have read with sincerity and hard work, right? As per the act, the following group of persons, categories of persons are entitled to receive free legal aid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Who these people are? All the victims, if they are women or children, SC or ST. Okay? Any person under custody, every person who is women, child, minority, even if they are not the victim or accused in certain cases. Every person who is the affected person from the disasters, natural disasters or man-made disasters, right? Every person who is the under conflict of law within Juvenile Justice Act, any person who is minor in conflict with the law, and any person whose annual income is less than 1 lakh rupees. So these categories of people you will write. Then first half of the answer is done. Then the main analytical part is how this role of NALSA in rendering free legal aid in India. So whenever the role is being asked, then we have to do 2-3 things. We have to write first what is the specific statutory constitutional role. So I will write here in second paragraph with the heading, the role and functions of NALSA 1987. So I'll write, NALSA effectively was established from 1995 with the following mandate: A, B, C, D. A, increasing legal awareness, increasing legal education, providing free legal aid, increasing the legal literacy or justice to all, lok adalats, organizing lok adalats. These four objectives I gave, right? Then after NALSA, because free legal aid is one of the objectives, so it is the job of NALSA to organize the national lok adalats, supervise the high courts within state to organize the state level lok adalat, or to take the reports from them on organization of the district level, taluka level lok adalat, or the CEO of NALSA, the senior most judge of the Supreme Court, is also responsible for the smooth functioning of the permanent lok adalats, that is consumer lok adalats in various mega cities. So the role is definitely very significant as per the law is concerned. But then the second last paragraph here we will write that the point here is that given the huge population of India, the basic role which Article 39A provides, that free legal aid and equal justice to all, still remains a task to be achieved, a goal to be achieved. Total number of people who are getting the relief or the aid from NALSA are not very high given the huge population in court cases in India. And the bigger challenge for NALSA is the finding out the proper legal help. Because suppose NALSA is giving you the legal assistance, it should be legally competent to defend the weaker section or that person who is getting free legal aid. So until the person, the advocate is not qualified, then providing free legal aid can be totally injustice to that person. No? And there NALSA is again have very little power in actually increasing the remuneration or budgeting of the free legal aid, and therefore NALSA is slightly behind in motivating the advocates and the legal officers to take the free legal aid projects or join them until they find it enough remunerative, right? So in this way the NALSA has some positive, some challenges, and enough facts we have given, and on the positive note we will end the answer. This is what we will do. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, compare and contrast the British and Indian approaches to parliamentary sovereignty. Now introduction. In this question is very simple. Introduction, not conclusion, right? That sovereignty is the main feature of modern nation states. Democratic states can be defined, classified into two, parliamentary and presidential. UK and India are the part of parliamentary democracy, having the sovereignty. Now the second paragraph. Despite being both a parliamentary democracy, their approach to the sovereignty is totally different from each other. Now, अब इतना तो लिख दिया, अब आगे क्या लिखोगे? क्या अलग है? What is the approach? What is the difference? So here you will write very clearly that basically India is a federal written constitution and Britain is the unitary unwritten constitution. Being a federal constitution, the powers are not absolute in any body but divided between center and state. And since we are a federal country, the Supreme Court has to have the final decision making power, interpretation power basically. Hence doctrine of basic structure also limits the abilities of the parliament to amend the constitution. Right. So this is the way our constitution has separated the powers and functions of it. Now the next, why it is so. Now you wrote the what was that. Now why it is so. Then we will write the history goes back in Britain from 1215 AD Treaty of Magna Carta. Britain is neither so big nor so populous nor so diverse, so they never felt any necessity to have you can say either written constitution or a federal constitution, and therefore their common law, civil law, worked totally in the favor of parliament, and so total sovereignty of the British people lies in the Parliament of Britain, which is not in the case of India. And that's why we say that British Parliament is absolutely sovereign, so that it can do everything except turning a man into woman or woman into the man. But Indian Parliament can't be said that. And this is reflected through various constitutional provisions, Supreme Court doctrines, decisions. So, compare and contrast British and Indian approaches to parliamentary sovereignty is something there. So, at the end you can write India is not a country with parliamentary sovereignty, but same is totally true for the Britain if we say so. Job is done. Nothing much, nothing, because see, when I am asking you to understand the answer, I have to go with the general ideas which a student who is writing mains should have. मैं इसको बहुत स्पेशलाइज्ड बना के लेके नहीं चलना चाहता. तो एक अच्छा विद्यार्थी, a good student, what should they write from the student point of view? That is my purpose. My purpose is not here to create any kind of awe momentum and oh my God, what a great, fact or something I have told you. एक student level पे what can be a very good answer? That's what our primary concern here. Okay, next, take the next one. Discuss the role of presiding officers of state legislatures. अब state legislatures का presiding officer, speaker in assembly and chairman if there is bicameral legislature. Right? So you can write about the both houses, but even if you write only about the single house state legislature or the speaker, then it is job is done. And why the question is easy, or the trick in this question is, not majority of you must have read in detail the power of the speaker in the state legislature or maintaining the conducting legislative work. So everybody would have done the same thing. They would have written, kept in their mind the power of the speaker of the Lok Sabha and written about the speaker of the state legislature, which is totally right. Which is totally right. But then here you have to also understand that what is the analytical portion and where you will get something extra other than writing the power of the legislative assembly speaker in the states with the Lok Sabha speaker, is that the nature of the politics, debate, discussion, committee system in the state legislature is totally different. The state legislature speaker gets more often the chance to decide upon discretionary power of the speaker, specifically anti-defection law. You see the case of Maharashtra. In Sena versus Sena case, Supreme Court said very clearly that the speaker, Maharashtra Assembly, had to decide about the defection of first 16 MLAs who defected from the Uddhav Thackeray government. Similarly, in Rabia Nebam case 2016, the Supreme Court said that the speaker cannot decide on the anti-defection if there is a direct there is some kind of motion against removal of the speaker is going on. So the point here is that the role of the speaker in the state is more politically motivated. They get more opportunity to use their discretionary power, specifically in anti-defection law. So here you will write that For the best democratic practice and conducting legislative work, the state assembly speaker, they have a very significant role, and in some cases a more significant role than the speaker Lok Sabha. Specifically, you can cite Sena versus Sena case or Rabia Nebam case, specifically anti-defection. This is where you can write the facts and features and figures. Right. So in this way you will say बाकी वो जो traditional question है, the traditional role of the speaker, conducting the session, maintaining etiquettes, maintaining quorum, conducting legislative business procedure as the final interpreter of the rules in the house, ये सारे तो आपने पहले लिख दिए. मैं एनालिटिकल पोर्शन वाले पे बता रहा था कहाँ राबिया नेबाम और सेना केस जो कि करंट अफेयर्स भी है. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टूड, यू हैव टू मेक द एग्जामिनर अंडरस्टैंड दैट यू हैव अंडरस्टूड द क्वेश्चन प्रॉपरली. एक लिमिट को क्रॉस करने वाली बात है ताकि एग्जामिनर शुड नो दैट व्हाट यू हैव बीन डूइंग इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस. ओके, लेट्स टेक द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Okay, so next question we have in hand is the Constitution of India is a living instrument, means document, with capabilities of enormous dynamism. It is constitution made for a progressive society, illustrate with special reference to expanding horizons of right to life and personal liberty. Very easy. What will two Supreme Court cases from right to life and personal liberty, and these two Supreme Court cases are definitely first Menka 1978 and second Puttaswamy judgment 2017. With these two judgments we will write the expansion of the life and liberty. If you know these two judgments well, in Menka Supreme Court said that the life which is given in Article 21 must be given the maximum meaning, maximum meaning. And you won't be surprised to know that free legal aid Hussain Ara Khatun case, which came as the fundamental right, was actually the expansion of Article 21. So was the Sheila Barse case, so was the Visakha case, so was the, hundreds of cases. So since independence, the judicial activism which you see is totally based on the expansion of the scope of right to life and personal liberty in Article 21. Then I'll write Puttaswamy judgment. But then what is the introduction? Introduction is very clear. No constitution is unchanging. Every generation requires a new set of rights and liabilities. As Pandit Nehru, first PM, said, that constitution must amend, change, remain dynamic, or it will be broken and become stale. And therefore, Article 21 in the case of fundamental rights has emerged as the human rights jurisprudence in India. Example, pehla paragraph, the significance and expansion and activism of Menaka, and then right to life and privacy of the Puttaswamy, many other judgments. But point is, you should not make list of the cases. Okay, my God, I know 5-10 cases. Analytically, you should be sound. That's what the most important thing is. Like analytical, I'll write after the expansion of Article 21 scope in Menaka and now with the Puttaswamy, we have seen that since the beginning of PIL regime in India, the majority of PILs are filed for the violation of Article 21. You can also write that Article 21 has been expanded so much that it has overshadowed, clouded all other fundamental rights. You can see LGBTQA, you can see many other things. So the expansion, dynamism means new interpretation, and nothing gives you new interpretation other than the changing and ever-changing concept of right to life. And this is what the conviction you have to show in this particular a particular article, a particular question, right? So the thing is very clear. Living instrument You can also write in introduction like I am creating new introduction, that a constitution as the living instrument means it should live up to the expectations of every generation, and therefore amending the constitution or changing the meaning of the constitution is required time to time to make the constitution relevant for the society. Now, first paragraph done. Now the second paragraph. For example, in Nas Foundation case, a Jarnail Singh case, Supreme Court said that this particular section of IPC is unconstitutional and same-sex relation is purely valid because it falls under right to life and personal expression, Article 19. So, the scope of Article 21 since Menka judgment is increasing. Now, the third paragraph I will write. In Menka judgment, Justice Bhagwati, P.N. Bhagwati said very clearly that aim now of the Supreme Court should be to expand the fundamental rights regime for people of India, and this can be done only by expanding the scope of right to life given in Article 21. And he brought back due process of law from the American judiciary in Article 21 because of that expansion. Judicial review also increased. And if we take the example of Vishakha or Sheila Barse or Visaljit or Puttaswamy, privacy is now fundamental right under personal liberty. What exactly means privacy, though we don't know, but privacy in principle is the fundamental right. Right. So on this basis, and at the end I'll write Article 21 has been the basis of the judicial activism and the flood of PIL cases in India. Majority of them are based on the violation of Article 21, which itself shows that it has made new interpretation of Article 21 has made our constitution is the living instrument. Last May 21A amendment, 86th amendment, which is part of Article 21, is the new article and it makes our constitution further a living document. So 21A को भी मेंशन कर देना है लास्ट में, ठीक है। और ये बात हमने मोर और लेस प्रूव कर दिया कि भाई साहब ये आर्टिकल 21 से ही मेनली हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक लिविंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट बन जाता है। ओके, गो टू द नेक्स्ट वन। Okay. Explain the constitutional perspectives of gender justice. Again, same fundamental right का question है ये भी, 21 से ही related है। Explain the constitutional perspectives of gender justice with the help of relevant constitutional provisions and case laws. So once I read the question, first thing should come into my mind that how many cases I can write related to gender justice. You know, सायरा बानो ट्रिपल तलाक केस, एक तो वो हो गया अब जेंडर जस्टिस। एवरीबडी नोज विशाखा केस, यू नो, एवरीबडी नोज विशालजीत, एवरीबडी नोज शीला बरसे। सो देर आर और कम से कम विशाखा और ये सायरा बानो ट्रिपल तलाक तो पता ही है ना। तो 2 केसेस मिनिमम होने चाहिए, ज्यादा लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है। सो नाउ वी हैव गॉट द 2 केसेस। Now, the first thing is explain constitutional perspectives of gender justice. तो 2 चीजें बतानी है, एक provision, दूसरा perspective. So I will simply write with the perspective because that will make a good introduction. That Indian Constitution was revolutionary when it was adopted in the sense that it did not differentiate between 2 sexes. From the day one, it provided equal voting rights, which was never in the case of any developed democracy in the world. This is the perspective. This is revolution. This is what we believe constitutionally. Then next, the provisions related to the women are Article 15, Clause 3, you know, special rights to women and children. Then you can write, of course, Article 23, you know, trafficking of women. Then you can write Article 39, E and F, that's what there. Then you can write Article 42, maternity benefit, all those things. Then a general clause like rule of law and non-discrimination will always be there. Now the jurisprudence has to go beyond the constitution to implement the constitution. That's what I will write here. Third paragraph. Then third paragraph will go, the gender justice is a wider concept than the constitutional perspectives and the provision. ये linkages है. अगर आप ये line नहीं लिख पा रहे हैं, so the linkages are not actually being framed. So then I'll write that gender justice is a wider concept than the perspectives and the provisions of the constitution. For example, only very recently Supreme Court allowed women in armed forces to have the commissioned officer status like men. So despite there is a constitutional similarity or equality, but the treatment of women in different walks of life may not be equal or the similar. In Visakha case, Supreme Court had to come to rescue the working women from the possible sexual harassments and the problems which they were facing. In Visaljit case, the prostitutes who are facing the stigma and further exploitation in hands of the police and customers were protected, including their children. In triple talaq, Muslim wife cannot be given triple talaq. I mean, that is made unconstitutional, Saira Bano case. So the point here is that the gender related jurisprudence is still developing in India. It is not complete. You know, like gay and lesbian, not complete. Many common uniform civil code, not complete. But one thing is very clear, that Indian constitution has a very clear perspective and the provisions for gender equality, but gender justice is still a debate and the goal to be achieved in India and in society and every walk of life. You know, so this is what is the 10 or 15 words question, 200 words, because they are saying Saira Bano, you can explain Saira Bano in one paragraph. जब आपको एक्सप्लेन करना है, बढ़ाना है तो बहुत इजी है. विशाखा केस बढ़ाना है तो बहुत इजी है. ठीक है, तो यहां लिस्टिंग नहीं करनी है. अगेन आई एम प्रोस्क्राइबिंग यू फ्रॉम लिस्टिंग हाउ मेनी केसेस, यू नो हाउ वेल यू अंडरस्टैंड द केस and how well you link your different arguments with each other. That will actually be more useful in a civil services examination. Right. Okay. Next question we have. So next question we have is, account for the legal and political factors responsible for reduced frequency of Article 356 by Union governments in mid-1980s. The question is very clear. Question is, why from mid-1980s Article 356 precedent rule has become less frequent? An obvious answer, first line should come into your mind, that SR Bommai case and Supreme Court's judicial activism. So SR Bommai case 1994 we will write. Then Rameshwar Prasad versus State of Bihar, 2006 we will write. And for Governor Arunachal Pradesh case, Rabia Nebam is very important. Rabia Nebam case 2016 we will write. So why it has reduced? It has reduced because the Supreme Court has taken more stringent position on doctrine of pleasure of precedent. प्लस द ग्राउंड्स ऑन विच, देखो क्या है कि जब तक आप गवर्नर को सिक्योरिटी प्रदान नहीं करोगे, गवर्नर विल ऑलवेज बी अंडर प्रेशर टू रिकमेंड 356. if the governor's post is safe, and therefore Supreme Court said very clearly that though we cannot say, Supreme Court said here or many cases in Rabia Nebam, that president cannot use the doctrine of pleasure in the same manner as the doctrine of pleasure is used for the removal of Attorney General. If the president removes the governor before the completion of 5 years term, then the president has to explain that the necessary sound reasons for doing that. Only political differences or the differences of opinion between the president and governor should not be the sufficient criteria for removal of the governor. This was the reason that the removal of the governor also reduced, and therefore 356. But the most important is that Supreme Court has taken very stringent view on the imposition of president rule as well. President starting with SR Bombay. In Rabia Nebam, Rameshwar Prasad Singh में Supreme Court ने बोला that if governor recommends the imposition of Article 356 without any sound reasoning, and we find that the report of the governor is not bona fide or with the malified intention, then 2006 में Supreme Court ने बोला we can revoke the president rule. And finally in the Rabia Nebam case, president actually revoked it, totally revoked it. And this is why the things became very important. तो अगर गवर्नर साहब 356 सही से नहीं लगा रहे हैं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट को वो आधार रीजनेबल नहीं लगता है ना. फॉर एग्जाम्पल in Sena versus Sena case, again Supreme Court said very clearly that the role of governor in inviting the Uddhav Thackeray to prove his majority within 24 hours is unconstitutional. Though here the 356 was never the issue because Uddhav Thackeray himself resigned from the post. So everything was justified because of that. But the Supreme Court questioned, and there in Rabia Nebam case, Supreme Court actually reversed the precedent rule and brought back the removed or suspended chief minister. So much so that there were new chief minister in Arunachal Pradesh when Rabia Nebam judgment was given. So the Supreme Court has taken a more technical view that the governor is a constitutional head of state. He should not be treated like doctrine of pleasure attorney general or any other minister. He is also head of the executive. So there should be fixed tenure until there is very sound reason to remove. And the Supreme Court has also taken the stringent view if the governor is recommending without any sufficient reasoning for that. So this makes the governor a totally different. और इसीलिए 1990 बम्बई केस के बाद से 356 की फ्रीक्वेंसी घट गई है ना. 356 की फ्रीक्वेंसी घट गई है. एंड एट द एंड यू विल राइट इन कंक्लूजन बिकॉज इट इज मेंस एग्जामिनेशन दैट if Article 356 is applied in true spirit, then the words of Dr. Ambedkar will come to life, that I hope it is never used and remains a dead letter in the Constitution of India. So this is how we link and how we end up impressively in this examination. Okay, now we have a new question. Okay, a very factual question. 101st Amendment related to GST. To what extent does it reflect the accommodative spirit of federalism? So this is GST. So what you need to write in first paragraph, that 101st Amendment passed in a special session of Parliament in 2016 amended the Constitution by including 246A, 269A and 279A. It is related with the GST Council and the scope of GST in the legislative matters. First paragraph में job is done. क्योंकि हमको जितना फैक्ट दिखाना था, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन सीधे सीधे 101 पूछ रहा है, तो हमने दिखा दिया. बट व्हाट इज द मेन गेम? मेन गेम इज द नेक्स्ट वन, Main game is not this. This is not here. Our thing is, to what extent does it reflect? This is what accommodative. Now the second para I will write. Since its inception, GST Council is flagged as the most important, the golden opportunity, the golden symbol of the center-state cooperative federal relationship. For the first time in the Constitution of India, the distribution of GST between center and state is 50-50, equal, half-half, which itself says that it is the equal center-state relation. States are given dominance in the decision-making power in the GST Council, which will be overarching authority on the GST tax rates, slabs and items and exemptions and all those things. So central government can make IGST laws, which is dominating over the states, but as the Supreme Court recently clarified that every state has the right to make their own GST laws and GST Council. So legally speaking, that the GST Council is the perfect example of cooperative federalism in India. There is no doubt about that. There is no. But this is the one way. Now you have to go to other way. What is other way? However, recently we have seen the practice that opposition regional parties are largely absent from the GST Council meeting or not in consensus. So the consensus building in GST Council has been missing. The states have raised the issue of increasing number of cess in the central pool of taxes and the loss of the GST revenue due to whatever economic slowdown or turndown is there. And therefore, GST has itself some technical problematic issue in the fiscal federalism of India. Certain states are not good enough in GST collection, so they are totally dependent on the center like the earlier. So GST, top 5-6 states contribute majority of GST collection in India. And therefore, GST is also not having some regional balance or showing regional balance. So these are the various challenges which the federalism and GST Council and GST can be there. Now, one nation, one tax is the good idea. One nation, one market is also good idea. But we know that given the diversity and regional variations in the capabilities of the states, GST has to be compensated with other provisions of the balanced regional development. The views of the states must be given a due weightage, some more consultation process should be adopted, and therefore the grievances of the states against the GST can be established, can be fulfilled. That's what we need to understand. So it was largely a factual question in nature. Second half was analytical. That's what the UPSC means. Okay, Article 16. First part is again explain the structure of the parliament. So this is again descriptive. How far analytical? Financial committees help in institutionalization of parliament. इसका मतलब समझ गए ना तो लिख दिए होगे, नहीं समझ पाए तो दिक्कत है. Institutionalization of Indian Parliament means the parliament जो खुद काम नहीं कर पाता है वो इनसे करता है. So institution parliament is reflected through financial committees in the areas for which they are made. Exactly estimates committee, PSC and committee on central public enterprises. That's what it is. So structure, committee system, you can write committees structure, permanent, ad hoc, then consultative committee of parliament. You mention here consultative committee of parliament. And then you go on showing that departmental related standing committees in parliament and the 3 finance committees, issue based committees there, and they are the different committees there. इससे ज़्यादा यहाँ लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Rest you will write. How for financial committees? Then you will go that financial committees are 1, 2, 3. What do? You write each one of them in 2 lines maximum, and then say how they institutionalize. And here you will write last two paragraphs that when budget is presented, the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, they have actually no time other than going for the broader political debate to go into details of each estimates and find out the veracity, the utility, the providence of that estimates. So the financial committees actually work for the parliament as parliament and on behalf of parliament. Of course, committees are part of parliament. So institutionalization of the parliament is never true more than anywhere else in the parliamentary system than the parliamentary committees of the finance, specifically the estimates committee. Second, PSC का role institutionalization देखिए. The parliament should make the government accountable, and PSC का job ही है that it audits further microscopic analysis of, you can say, the CAG report. So it is again doing the job of parliament, institutionalizing the parliament in making the government accountable. This is what it is. And same CAG report for the CPSCs is checked in the public sector committee. So with the examples and the constitutional provisions, you can always prove that this has been the role and the situation of the financial committees in institutionalizing the Parliament of India. Thank you from my side. Now you will see the IR, international relations. 4 or 5 questions have been given, right? So what I wanted actually is that all you understand what can be the main content and what can be the possible introductions, right? Hopefully you got the broader idea at how to treat with these questions. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much for joining in. We are here to understand the way in which answers of IR should have been written in this particular mains examination. All right. So let us now start with the discussion of the question. Those who are not writing, those who basically did not write mains this year, now this discussion is important for them. ठीक है, this discussion is basically important for them. I would say those who are writing next year, उनके लिए तो ज़्यादा important है, because you have to study answer writing, you have to study the structuring of the answers, you have to study how the content has to go in and what content has to go in right now. ठीक है, बाद में टाइम नहीं मिलेगा, तो आपको अभी ये पढ़ना होगा. All right, let us see the first question in international relations. First and foremost, let me tell you the questions that have been asked now, that are not so difficult in IR. They are questions that have been regularly discussed. At least in GS core they have been regularly discussed. We had trained our students to deal with these questions way before the examination. Okay, in a way our students, I feel in a way our students were at greater standing when it came to answering these questions. They had their introduction, main body ready with respect to this particular subject matter. चलो पहला क्वेश्चन देखते हैं. Virus of conflict is affecting the functioning of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. In the light of the above statement, point out the role of India in mitigating the problems. Very easy questions. The very easy question. There is basically a problem in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and we have to showcase how India can basically help to make SCO more functional. Okay, so what we have to do in this particular question, or what we have to write in the answer to this question, we have to basically take into consideration the problems first, describe the problems. It is a 10 marker, so you need not get into the details of the problems. ठीक है, mention the problems, थोड़ा एक आध line लिख देना, and then come to what India can do. Basically that's your answer. इससे simple क्या है? It is therefore a very simple question. चलो देखते हैं what are the problems that affect SCO. उससे पहले थोड़ा सा इंट्रोडक्शन डिस्क्राइब कर लेते हैं, डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. Whenever there is a question on a particular international organization, ना क्या करना है भाई, इधर इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बारे में एक लाइन तो कम से कम लिख दो. तो व्हाट इज सांघाई कोऑपरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन? इट इज बेसिकली एन यूरेशियन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. इट इज बेसिकली एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दैट फोकसेस ऑन economic and security cooperation in Eurasia. Done. With respect to this organization, what more can you basically write? First and foremost, you have to comment. You have written the basic and agenda with respect to SCO. Now you have to mention Shanghai Cooperation Organization has to a certain extent been negatively impacted. Due to what are the reasons for this negative impact? It has been negatively impacted because of the disputes that have arisen in the member states, and between the member states. So problem with respect to Shanghai Cooperation Organization is not just that members basically have discontent among each other. There is discontent within the countries also, and that is the reason many countries are not able to perform as well as they should, or as they are not able to provide for resources, or they are not able to provide for cooperation as much as they should because of this particular problems amongst them and within them. All right, next is the bridging sentence. What it will do, it will connect the introduction to the main body. Bridging statement क्या होना चाहिए? Bridging statement होना चाहिए India recently what it did was it chaired a virtual meeting of SCO, a virtual summit of SCO, and because it chaired the virtual summit of SCO, it in a way became the responsibility of India to see to it that there is streamlining of cooperation between the members of the organization. So this was your introduction. You need not write same to same. What you could do is whatever I have said उसको थोड़ा सा और छोटा कर दो. ठीक है, write precisely, save your words, save your time and save your energy. But this basically is what a evaluator will want. देखो, virtual summit के बारे में लिखना जरूरी था because you have to tell the organizer, you have to basically tell the evaluator that you know why this question is asked. ये question इसलिए पूछा ना because India hosted that virtual summit or chaired that virtual summit, इसीलिए ये question पूछा गया था. So you have to let the examiner know that you are aware why this question was been asked. Next, what will you write in the main body? In the main body, सबसे पहले focus on the problems. In the main body, first and foremost, focus on the problems. What are the problems? First and foremost, with respect to SCO, we do find problems related to ethnic violence. ठीक है. Now remember, this particular problem of ethnic violence in SCO is not new. This particular problem of ethnic violence in the countries of SCO, member countries of SCO, is not new. This particular area, ठीक है, mainly the Central Asia region, did not have the concept of nations. It had the concept of loyalty towards tribe. ठीक है, it had the concept of loyalty towards tribe. अब क्या हुआ? What happened was USSR came in और उसने अकॉर्डिंग टू इट्स कन्वीनियंस नेशंस बना दिए. Alright, when USSR got disintegrated, these nations became important, and they basically did not know what to do with this particular, how to go about with this particular idea of nationalism and nation. ठीक है, hence even if they created countries, they could not create a common identity. This has basically led to violence amongst the countries on the basis of tribal loyalties and violence with each other. ठीक है, violence with each other, disagreements with each other with respect to tribal loyalties. Best example is Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. ठीक है, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and violence related to them or disagreements related to these two countries with respect to the Fargana Valley. With respect to the Fargana Valley. All right, so that you can write. इतना डिटेल में मत लिखो. एथनिक वायलेंस लिखो. आई एम ओनली ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन यू द बैकग्राउंड. ठीक है, एथनिक वायलेंस लिखो. राइट वन लाइन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू एथनिक वायलेंस बीइंग प्रोमिनेंट इन दिस पर्टिकुलर एरिया. Hence what has happened is neither there has been better cooperation between the countries. ethnic violence की वजह से neither countries are able to offer more than what they are offering right now. Countries are not able to meet their potential with respect to their what they could advance to SCO. Example Fargana Valley का लिख लो, बिल्कुल लिख लो, and write the problem between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Second thing that you can mention is with respect to a competition between the global powers. Global powers, which are the important global powers in this particular organization. So we basically have, yes Mahima, good evening. We basically have India, we have Russia, we have China, also to a certain extent Pakistan. Even if it is not a global power, it is an important power. Okay, it is an important power. So these powers have a competition amongst themselves, and this particular competition, what it leads to? It leads to countries trying to obstruct initiatives taken by others. Countries trying to obstruct initiative taken by others. Countries not being in favor of their rivals getting a driving seat in SCO, and this has been a cause of concern within the organization. This has been the cause of concern within the organization. There is also problem with respect to rivalries. मतलब एक ग्लोबल पावर का स्ट्रगल तो है, बट राइवलरीज भी है. फॉर एग्जांपल, देयर इज क्लियर कट राइवलरी बिटवीन इंडिया एंड चाइना, एंड दैट इज रिफ्लेक्टेड इन SCO also. There is clear cut rivalry between India and Pakistan, and that is reflected in SCO also, when both these countries obstruct the work of each other, be it India China, be it India Pakistan. ठीक है, be it India China or be it India Pakistan, there is constant lobbying with respect to each country trying to dominate the organization, है ना. And in that process what happens is the speed at which the work can be done is reduced. There is also competition within the SCO countries with respect to resources, especially with respect to hydrocarbons. And this competition between the countries with respect to hydrocarbons, what it has done is, it has not led to cooperation. देखो, almost all the countries of SCO have a common resource, that is hydrocarbons. When I say all the countries, basically Central Asian countries, not all the countries. देखो, एक तरह से क्या है ना, in SCO a product is with a group of countries, and the same product is wanted by another group of countries. So countries like Kazakhstan, countries like Uzbekistan, countries like Russia, countries like Turkmenistan, they have the products of natural resources, which is hydrocarbons. And there is another set of countries, China हो गया, India हो गया, Pakistan हो गया, they are in need of these particular products. They are basically in the need of these particular products. But essentially what has happened is, there has not been that kind of coordination between the countries between the countries, the supplier countries also and the demand countries also, the supply countries also and the demand countries also. All right, in fact there is a dispute, there is consistent dispute between the supply countries and the demand countries, within the supply countries and within the demand countries also, with respect to the hydrocarbons, with respect to the resources that could, with respect to the resource that basically could have created a better bond between the countries of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So hydrocarbons also play a role when it comes to creating problem. Obviously hydrocarbons in themselves are not to be accused of it. It is our attitude that has to be accused. What can India do? One more thing, one more issue, one more problem that these countries face with respect to conflict, and that is Afghanistan. This is actually more important. It should have been written ahead of rivalries between the countries. देखो, Afghanistan is going through a period of intense instability since US left the country some 2 years back. And this instability, and this particular instability, what has it caused? And this particular instability, what has it caused? It has caused transportation of illegal drugs, transportation of illegal migrants, transportation of extremist ideas and extremist personnels into the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, which mainly are the Central Asian countries, also to certain extent Pakistan and India. All right, so this has also led, this is one more reason because of which violence as such and conflict as such is on rise in SCO countries. So now how to deal with it? Okay, now we come to the second part of the question, which has to be written in bit more detail. It has to be elaborated a bit. इसको elaborate नहीं करोगे तो चलेगा, pointers लिखो, एक आध line लिख लो, that will be more than enough. अभी जो लिखेंगे ना उसमें elaboration की जरूरत है, because that is the focus of the question. ठीक है, पूछ रहे हैं ना, point out the role of India in mitigating the problems. तो ठीक है, point out कर लेते हैं what all India can do. चलो देख लेते हैं what all India can do. Role of India. My dear friends, what you can do is please ask me questions also. ठीक है, it is a live session, make full use of it. I am available at your service. पूछिए questions, मैं answers दूंगा. Don't worry at all. We will engage, we will discuss, we will improve and we will clear UPSC. All right. First, India has the role of enabling dialogue. देखो, India has good relations with almost all of the SCO members, excluding we can say Pakistan and China. ठीक है, excluding Pakistan and China. And this good role, thank you Shefali, this good role that India plays, or this good relations that India has with most of the countries, of SCO, what does it do? It creates a position for India where it can basically ask the other countries to cooperate with each other. In a way, India can mitigate the conflict through dialogue between different countries of SCO. Second is, देखो, India is one of the biggest economies of the world right now. It has immense demand. With respect to natural resources, especially hydrocarbons. And these particular resources, thank you Hemant. These particular resources, if they are in a way channelized through an economic partnership among the SCO countries, okay, India and other SCO countries, if they channelize these particular resources in the right manner, what will happen is better platform for exchange of ideas will come up. देखो, मार्क्स बाबा ने बोला है ना, ठीक है, इकोनॉमी इज एट द बेस ऑफ एवरीथिंग. यू मे बी अ लेफ्टिस्ट, यू मे बी अ राइटिस्ट, इट डज नॉट मैटर, बट ये एक लाइन जो मार्क्स बाबा का है ना, it is fundamentally true. Economy is at the base of anything. So if we could in a way provide for that economic route, if we could provide for that economic connection between the different countries, what basically will happen? Hello Raj sir, hello Rajji. What could basically happen is it will promote dialogue, it will promote good relations between the countries of SCO. People to people contact. People to people contact is another important work or another important route through which India can mitigate conflict in this region. ठीक है, As I told you, India has good relations with these countries. Our people go there, invest in those countries, go there as a tourist. People from those countries come to us. Okay, all these things, what would it ultimately lead to is better understanding of each other's culture. Even culturally, we are very close to each other. India and other Eurasian countries, we are culturally also close to each other. Especially Pakistan हो गया, Central Asian countries हो गई. ठीक है? So that cultural platform also can be used to connect, to find a connect between people of Central Asia. to find a connect between the people of Central Asia and India, and of course other SCO members also. And this connect basically will make it possible for the countries to navigate their relations towards cooperation. देखो, people ultimately play a very big role in policy making of a country. So if people are oriented towards cooperation, the countries will be also oriented towards cooperation. Their policies will be inclined towards cooperation. Moving on, the next solution that India can find is India can play a bigger role by keeping its problems at doorsteps of SCO. What do I mean by this? We have problem with China. We have problem with Pakistan. Okay? But that problem that we have with China or that problem that we have with Pakistan should not become an hindrance for the purpose of better functioning of SCO. All right. So with respect to Pakistan and with respect to China, we have to see to it, of course by mutual consultation, we have to see to it that we do not reflect those problems. We basically do not reflect those problems in SCO. हमारा उनके साथ relation खराब है, we should deal in SCO with them according to the needs of SCO. Of course, our larger national interests should not be sacrificed, but we should deal with them in SCO according to the needs of SCO. Alright, and last but not the least, what we can also do is we can set example. We can basically set example by showcasing how we as a country have always followed the rule of law, followed the rule of international law, and countries in SCO shall also do so. देखो, once you agree to follow international law, ठीक है, once you agree to follow the established international law, what will it basically do? Thank you, Vishaka. What will it basically do? It will create clarity for other countries also. ठीक है, it will create an urge for following international law in other countries also, which is need of an hour. So basically these are the ways in which India can play a bigger role, with respect to Shanghai Cooperation Organization and help that particular organization go. Conclusion में क्या लिखना है? Conclusion में लिखना है through the different methods that we have listed down. ठीक है, सारे methods मत लिखो, एक या दो लिखो, and what you do is you link it कि through this what can happen is India can create a suitable solution that will sustain, that will expand and sustain the growth of SCO, and its utility of course will increase through it. So this was our first answer. We'll go to the second answer now. Again, not so difficult. In fact, we have consistently focused on our children and our students and asked them to focus on the role of diaspora. Diaspora भाई बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, बहुत important है, ठीक है? It is important for you to understand diasporas in different parts of the world that India has, and also the role that it basically plays in different parts of the world. ठीक है? So we had done that. In fact, we had prepared our students with respect to Indian diaspora in Central Asia, Russia, Europe, United States, East Asia, even to an extent that we have also prepared our students to write answer with respect to diaspora in island countries of Pacific. ठीक है, चलो देखते हैं एक्चुअली में अपना क्वेश्चन क्या पूछता है, देखते हैं. Indian diaspora has scaled new heights in the West. Describe its economic and political benefits for India. All right, very nice question. Very nice question, but in fact it is not so difficult question. It is actually not so difficult question. So with respect to diaspora, what will you do? With respect to this particular answer, what will you do? क्वेश्चन का फोकस बहुत सही है. उन्होंने बोला है कि इंडिया के डायस्पोरा का इफ आई कैन यूज दैट वर्ड, औकात बढ़ रहा है. ठीक है, न्यू हाइट्स मतलब औकात बढ़ रहा है. तो ये औकात बढ़ना जो है इंडियन डायस्पोरा का, हाउ विल इट बेसिकली बेनिफिट इंडिया पॉलिटिकली एंड इकोनॉमी. ठीक, इकोनॉमिकली, पॉलिटिकली एंड इकोनॉमिकली हाउ विल इट बेनिफिट इंडिया. तो भाई साहब, व्हेन यू स्टार्ट टू राइट द आंसर ना, डिस्क्राइब दिस पर्टिकुलर टर्म. एक लाइन में बताओ ना व्हाट इज डायस्पोरा, क्या जाता है. In one sentence, describe this particular term diaspora. What is basically diaspora? Diaspora is set of people. Diaspora basically set of people who have spread or dispersed from their homeland to a foreign country. Set of people who have spread or dispersed from their homeland. From their homeland to other parts of the world. All right. With respect to diaspora, is there anything from current affairs that you can connect? कुछ हुआ है? हाँ, हुआ है ना. ठीक है, वर्ल्ड माइग्रेशन रिपोर्ट आई है, वर्ल्ड माइग्रेशन रिपोर्ट 2022. मेंशन अबाउट इट. वर्ल्ड माइग्रेशन रिपोर्ट 2022. What does it say? It says that Indian diaspora basically is the biggest. Indian diaspora is basically the biggest diaspora in the world. Biggest diaspora in the world. तो basically ये बोल रहे हैं कि Indians have been spreading themselves everywhere. Don't take it in a negative way. I'm speaking about it in a positive way, very positive way. Alright, Indian diaspora is the biggest in the world. अभी आपने क्या किया ये करके? You have infused current affairs. You have infused current affairs in this particular answer. Rahul Raja, please stop sending these comments. ठीक है. Yes, Shefali will definitely do this. So it is the biggest diaspora in the world, and because it is the biggest diaspora in the world, obviously it has influence, and this influence has increased with Indian diaspora actually positioning itself at important points politically and economically in the western countries. Chalo, now let us basically move on to what to write in the main body of the answer. In the main body of the answer ना, first and foremost showcase, उन्होंने बोला है ना कि इंडियन डायस्पोरा हैज रीच न्यू हाइट्स. तो न्यू हाइट्स कौन सी है वो दिखा दो. ठीक है, न्यू हाइट्स कौन सी है वो दिखा दो. इन द मेन बॉडी अंडर द हेडर पोजीशन ऑफ इंडियंस अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. ठीक है, पोजीशन ऑफ इंडियंस इन वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज लिख देना, बिकॉज दे आर स्पेसिफिकली आस्किंग यू अबाउट द वेस्ट ना, तो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज लिख देना. तो पोजीशन ऑफ इंडियंस इन वेस्ट. यहां पे कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स डाल दो. सबसे पहले तो यू कैन टॉक अबाउट टेक इंडस्ट्री. व्हाट डू वी सी इन टेक इंडस्ट्री? इन टेक इंडस्ट्री we see because of the technological inclination of Indians and due to their hard work over the period of time, what has happened is Indians have occupied important positions in Indians have basically so Shubhangi is asking what is the significance of infusing current affairs in the answer. It will let the examiner know that you have been reading current affairs and you have that capability of interlinking current affairs to what is written in the book, and that is what the examiner wants to basically see. ठीक है, he does not want to see bookish knowledge, he wants to see your ability to blend two things together or multiple things together, and if that you can do, you can basically have an edge over other candidates. That is the importance of bringing in current affairs. Alright, तो position of Indians in the West, तो tech industry के बारे में मैं बता रहा था. With respect to tech industry, you can basically always mention how, due to their inclination towards technology, due to the inclination of Indians towards technology, and because of their hard work, what has basically happened, they are now in a way of guiding the tech industry in the West. ठीक है, guiding the tech industry in the West, which has basically increased the influence of India or Indians in what we commonly call as Silicon Valley. ठीक है, in the Silicon Valley, not only in Silicon Valley but also in other tech hubs, but as we commonly call Silicon Valley, तो वो लिख देना. Examples में क्या लिखोगे? Examples में you can write about सुंदर पिचाई and सत्य नडेला. ठीक है, ये दो examples लिख लो. Next is the positions that Indians have currently held or are currently holding in political arena of the West. यहाँ पे दो examples तो एकदम सामने है, ऋषि सुनक है and Kamala Harris है. Write about them. Later you can come to the world of investments. So Indians abroad have not only created wealth for themselves but also have basically created wealth for the societies and the countries in which they live. How? By investing, by becoming venture capitalist. ठीक है, and what this has done is it has in a way positioned India in a better way. So we are not only job seekers in the West now, we are basically job givers also. ठीक है, and यहाँ पे we can also mention how India's positioning, ठीक है, India's positioning as job giver or you can say linker of funds or vanguard of funds, ठीक है, vanguard of money, is also established from the fact कि कैसे Indians now are heading important financial institutions. Ajay Bagga is the best example. He is basically the chairman of World Bank. With respect to investors, you can mention the name of Vijay Khosla, who is chairperson of Sun Microsystems. Pranjal, thank you for appreciation here. Thank you so much for appreciation. It is only because of the people like you and the love and respect that you people showcase or show to us, and the way in which you appreciate our efforts, we undertake such endeavors and will continue to do so. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on now to the next part, जहां पे हम लोग इंपॉर्टेंस दिखाएंगे. ये तो हो गया कि यहाँ पे हमने ये दिखा दिया at what heights Indians are placed. ठीक है, कहां पे हम लोग पहुंच चुके हैं. Now what we will do is we will basically move on and look into what economic and political, how it is economically and politically important for India. तो economic importance में what will write, what will be our focus in economic importance. In economic importance, our focus should be basically on how Indian diaspora has been the source of remittance. India is the biggest receiver of remittance. Remittance basically क्या होता है? Remittance basically is the money that Indians send from the country in which they live. ठीक है, सो हमारे लोग जो बाहर गए हैं, जब वो अपने फैमिलीज को घर के लिए पैसा भेजते हैं, that is called remittance. Remittance is the biggest source of, it is basically the biggest source of foreign revenue, foreign exchange for India. It is because of remittances that we are able to balance our, import and exports. ठीक है, we are able to balance our currency exchange. ठीक है, इट इज ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ रेमिटेंस. तो रेमिटेंस का हमारे पास होना, फॉरेन एक्सचेंज का हमारे पास होना, व्हाट डज इट डू? इट गिव्स स्टेबिलिटी फॉर अस टू कैरी आउट इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड. सो दैट इज द बिगेस्ट इकोनॉमिक एडवांटेज. और जैसे जैसे बड़े बड़े पोजीशंस पे इंडियन पहुंचते हैं, व्हाट हैपेंस इज द अमाउंट ऑफ रेमिटेंस आल्सो इंक्रीजेस, द वैल्यू ऑफ रेमिटेंस दैट वी गेट आल्सो इंक्रीजेस. Alright, the value of remittances that we get also increases. Second benefit that we get second economic benefit that we get is of course with respect to, देखो, when a particular Indian is at an important position, it is at an important position, or he has reached a particular height with respect to economy, with respect to economic or political positioning, what results in is streamlining of India's efforts to invest and to get investments into India. Indians even living abroad, even if they have lived abroad for 3 or 4 generations, they do have a soft corner for India, and that is why what we see is they playing a critical role when investments are to be done by Indians in other countries and investments have to be done in India. All right, this is the second benefit that we get. Because of the Indians that lived in the West, what happens is a picture of India is created, which makes India more appreciable in the countries. What it results into? It results into our movies getting better business. All right, क्योंकि एक picture बन गया ना, now what happens is people are curious about Indian culture, people are curious about India, and this basically results in foreigners wanting to know about India and therefore investing in our movies. मतलब Indian movies को देखना. It also results in India getting tourists from the West. ठीक है, India getting tourists from the West. So these are basically the economic advantages. What are the political benefits? If I may ask, political benefits क्या है? देखते हैं political benefits. First political benefit that we see is with respect to India and the other countries trying to negotiate deals, political deals. So we already have a lobby in the West. And what these lobbies basically do is they support or they sensitize foreign governments towards India's position, towards India's needs. And once that sensitization happens, basically it becomes easy for us to reach out to the foreign country, to the Western country, and it also becomes easy for the Western country to understand our position. All right, second is in international organization, India is understood in a better way. India's position is understood in better way. ठीक है, so be it climate change, be it negotiations over climate change, be it India's position, India's position with respect to international trade, that means in WTO, or be it India's position with respect to global economy. What do we see? There is better sensitivity of world organization towards India. देखो ये पहले नहीं था, अब है. अब इसलिए भी है कि India's economic value has increased, but it is also because there are important Indians placed in positions of influences which in a way create a mahal for India in international organizations, which basically create a mahal for India in international organization. It also leads to better appreciation of Indians when it comes to basically when it comes to India wanting to host an international event. So India hosting G20 in a way was a political event. To an extent, this was also possible because of the Indians that are positioned in different countries at effective places. ठीक है, तो they could in a way make a route for India और create a माहौल जिसके वजह से लगा कि ठीक है, India could host this important event, and India did host that particular important event with relative ease. relative is. ठीक है, so this in a way, these basically are the political benefits that India gets. These are political benefits that India gets. Sometimes India also get preferences with respect to trading, with respect to conducting political relations, direct preferences. Why? Because we have better relations because of Indian diasporas in those particular countries. Conclusion में क्या लिखोगे? Conclusion में लिखोगे as India's diaspora gains importance and influence, what has over the period of time happened is, we have only gained in strength and position, and this will continue to happen. And this strength and position basically will be beneficial both economically and politically. Chalo, moving on now to the next question. Now we are moving to 15 markers. Take him. Now we are moving to 15 markers. Again, a question that in a way was expected by us. In fact, if you go through our test series, we will soon put out our test papers to show that these are not false claim. GS score in a way has started decoding the way in which UPSC wants aspirants to understand the subject. देखो, UPSC का पढ़ाई मतलब basically क्या है? It is not shooting in the dark. It is trying to understand what UPSC wants from aspirants. If you understand that, if you get the pulse of that, it will basically push you ahead in the race. ठीक है, ये चारों क्वेश्चन जो इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में have been asked, I'll not say word to word they are same from our test series, but to a large extent we had covered those areas. In fact, we had questions on SEOs and we had question on problems in SEOs. We had question with respect to Indian diaspora and how Indian diaspora helps India's positioning. We had question with respect to India's partnership with NATO and how it can be, groundbreaking. If this partnership goes along, how it can be groundbreaking. ठीक है, we have also had a question on IMO, which we will discuss in some time. We will now showcase, in the coming weeks, what we will do is we will actually showcase the papers to you to prove that the claims that we had made, the claims that I am making, or the claims that other faculties have made, they are not false. They are not false in any way. And it basically shows that we have, in a way, understood how and what UPSC wants. Okay, chalo. Now let us look at this question. The expansion and strengthening of NATO and a stronger US-Europe strategic partnership works well for India. What is your opinion about this question? Give reasons and examples to support your answer. Simple question again. Okay. So what we have seen in the recent times, especially with respect to Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, you can take the background of Russia-Ukraine war. With respect to Russia-Ukraine war, what we have basically seen is greater cooperation between US and Europe, all obviously through the aegis of NATO. Okay, and the urgency of getting more of the countries to its side has led to Western powers under the aegis of NATO to gravitate towards India. All right. It has also in a way been in sync with India's opinion with respect to international relations, which is rule based, which is oriented towards peace, and which does not discriminate the countries based on their size. Okay, does not discriminate countries based on their size. Okay, so this is what basically US and Europe's relation is with respect to Europe and US relations is with respect to the present context, and how India becomes the centrality of this particular relation. Not centrality, but it makes US and Europe gravitate towards India. The present scenario also of Ukraine war makes it difficult for India to be ignored. If we look into NATO's expansion, hello Bushra, thank you, Divine, Hello Gagan, thank you so much for this appreciation. Thank you so much. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll get into how NATO expansion does help India. चलो देख लेते हैं फटाफट with respect to NATO expansion what we can how we can in a way connect. देखो first and foremost NATO's expansion in Europe or in other parts of the world, what it will do is it will deter aggression, which is better for world peace and something which even India agrees or India sides with. ठीक है, India agrees or India sides with. It does not in any way mean, that NATO in a way was successful in deterring Russia from getting into a war. But Russia का तो ठीक है ओवरऑल हिसाब ही अलग है. It is not one of those countries which will be deterred by NATO because it has enough firepower with it. Otherwise, NATO's expansion with respect to world affairs is such that it will deter aggression and it will lead to a peaceful world. ठीक है, it will lead to a peaceful, you can say peaceful global environment, like the one in which US was the global superpower. I am not saying that it should happen. I am just saying that it would happen. It may happen. Alright, it may happen, and this is the way in which India will be affected by it. Second is it would in a way deterrence के point को ही आगे लेते हुए we are writing this second point, and it will in a way curb China's ambition to be the new hegemon of the world. ठीक है, China in that way at this point of time will not like to cross the line with respect to NATO, and hence it will have to hold back when it comes to its aggression, when it comes to its ambition, which are against the rules of international law. Most importantly, in maritime security. So in maritime security, what we basically see, to an extent, China playing an undemocratic role. China in a way pressing for more aggression. China basically pressing for dominance in Indo-Pacific region. And this particular dominance, what it has led to hindrance in free international trade, and therefore hindrance in prosperity and growth and development. ठीक है, we also could see better balance of power with NATO's expansion. Why better balance of power? Better balance of power in the way, ठीक है, in the way कि at this point of time competing with China with respect to investments, competing with China with respect to the resources that it is capable of dumping in any country and making that country happy, they are not matchable. ठीक है, they are not matchable. If NATO expands, what can happen is a better pool can be created from which China could be countered, not only militarily. ठीक है, militarily तो है, but these countries are basically like-minded, and what they will do is they in a way will try to contain China, not only China, even other countries which in a way through their resources are trying to dominate and therefore disturb the international system that has already been created. Alright, so in that way it is also good for India. The balance of power will be maintained balance of power will also be maintained. आगे जाते हुए what we also see, this particular arrangement, NATO's expansion and India's greater working relations with NATO, both United States and Europe being the member of it, It will also provide for better opportunity of transfer of power. Better opportunity for transfer of power. ठीक है, ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर नहीं, आई एम सो सॉरी, ट्रांसफर ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, आई एम सो सॉरी, transfer of technology. It will also provide India access to more exclusive groups like NSG, nuclear suppliers group. So it will enhance India's positioning. It will enhance India's positioning. Is this all that easy? मैंने तो ये सारे points बोल दिए, इस तरह से affect करेगा. But is this all that easy? Basically नहीं. ठीक है, basically नहीं. देखो, with respect to India, we have to understand NATO's expansion and NATO's coming close to India is good. We will have good relations with it. We want to have good relations with it. But there also has to be sense of some reality. We coming close to NATO is not bad, but we sacrificing our relations with other countries and forgetting about international dynamics altogether to come close to NATO or bring NATO close to us is something that has to be debated, and it is something that we have to resist. Why? Because we have to also understand our relations with other major powers and global powers. For example, Russia. We cannot at this point of time ditch Russia. Russia is important to us, Russia was important to us, and Russia will be important to us. Okay, it will play an important role in our foreign policy. Just for the sake of getting close to NATO, we cannot do away with the benefits that we get with our strategic relations with Russia. Second is, we cannot forget our regional dynamics. About regional dynamics. Yes, we have had bad relations with China. In fact, at this point of time, India's relations with China are at their lowest. ठीक है, और near to the lowest. ठीक है, they are basically near to the lowest. Does it in any way mean कि we cannot improve our relations with them? देखो, as former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh said, we can change our friends, but we cannot basically change our neighbors. So we will have to deal with the neighbors that we have. And dealing with the neighbors का मतलब है we have to be appreciative of the efforts if they are made by both the countries with respect to peace. ठीक है, NATO उसके बारे में क्या सोच रहा है, चलो, it is important, but how that particular relation will affect our relations with China positively or negatively, that is also important to understand. Just because NATO is at this point of time containing China, shall we also do it? We can do it when it is needed, we shall avoid it when we can. ठीक है, when we can. Why? Because we got to have good relations with all the countries and all the spheres of influences around the world. Moving ahead, we also to a certain extent do not have a complete alignment. Do not have complete alignment of interest with the West. There are some positions of India that West may not agree, and there are some positions of West that India does not agree. So in this situation, it is better to carry out an independent part. So what will be your opinion with respect to India's close partnership with NATO? Your opinion basically should be, a close partnership is something that we are not trying to avoid, but it does not mean following NATO at all times. Okay, we are open to getting close to NATO as much as possible and engaging with NATO as much as possible, but it in no way can take the position. It in no way can take the position of India having strategic independence. ठीक है, ये वर्ड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, स्ट्रेटेजिक इंडिपेंडेंस. इंडिया हैविंग स्ट्रेटेजिक इंडिपेंडेंस, so India should not lose its strategic independence. India should move ahead with NATO, but not become its follower. ठीक है, basically not become its follower. And looking into this scenario, what we basically feel is India's engagement with NATO will not be as complete as NATO's relations with each other. India's relations with NATO and its members will not be as close as the relations that NATO members have amongst each other. ठीक है, चलो मूविंग ऑन नाउ टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन एंड द लास्ट क्वेश्चन. ओके, लेट अस लुक एट दिस क्वेश्चन. यार ये भी करवाया था हमने, अगर मेरे बच्चों ने ठीक से किया नहीं होगा ना परफॉर्म, बहुत पिटूंगा. हरीश पानी. Okay, give me 2 minutes. Let me have some breathe. Let me breathe for some time and then we will start again. Okay, so the question is, sea is an important component of cosmos. Alright, discuss in the light of above statement the role of IMO, that is International Maritime Organization, in protecting environment and enhancing maritime safety and security. Not a difficult question at all. ठीक है, ये पहले क्या करना है ना इस क्वेश्चन में, सबसे पहले सुनो, सबसे पहले इस क्वेश्चन में you have to showcase the importance of sea. You have to basically showcase the importance of sea. You have to also showcase how sea connects different countries of the world together. Then you have to talk about problems related to sea right now, especially environmental problems, security problems, and then come to the solution. Solution से सबसे ज़्यादा जोर देना है because it is asking about solution, and solution also from whom? International Maritime Organization. International Maritime Organization. To a certain extent, what you have to also do is you have to write about International Maritime Organization. एक या दो लाइन इंट्रोडक्शन में लिख लेना, बहुत हो गया. It will showcase to the examiner कि भाई तुम्हें पता है, तुम फेक नहीं रहे हो, कि जो तुम्हें आता है वो लिख रहा है और फिर बोल दिया कि हाँ इंटरनेशनल मैरीटाइम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने करवाया. ये करोगे ना, मार्क्स नहीं मिलेंगे. ये करोगे तो बेसिकली यू वोंट गेट योर मार्क्स. ठीक है, चलो लेट्स स्टार्ट. लेट मी हैव सम वाटर गाइस. Okay, introduction. What will be in the introduction? You have to mention how. Introduction में mention sea is something that binds all nations together. Binds most nations, या all भी लिखेगा तो चलेगा. Most nations together. ठीक है. And because it binds most nations together, it becomes a responsibility of us to protect it. ठीक है, and this responsibility to a large extent has been spearheaded by International Maritime Organization. ठीक है, International Maritime Organization, it is taken it upon itself to regulate the problems or stop the problems or obstruct the problems that seas of the world face. Alright, चलो अभी मेन बॉडी पे चलते हैं. मेन बॉडी में what we will do is we will basically talk about what are the initiatives taken by IMO. IMO का initiatives क्या है? What are the initiatives of IMO? First and foremost, with respect to waste management, IMO came up with Blast Waste Management Convention. Blast Waste Management Convention. Through this Blast Waste Management Convention, what IMO is trying to do is IMO is trying to regulate the discharge of waste products into the waters of the world, that is into the seas, and also see to it that invasive species do not enter in a specific area, causing damage to the endemic species. IMO also came up with something called as Marlow Convention. Now this particular convention, Marpol Convention, sorry, my mistake. Marpol Convention looked into, now Marpol Convention has looked into the way in which pollution caused by shipping industry pollution caused by shipping industry could be controlled. ठीक है, pollution caused by shipping industry could be controlled, and hence these could be treated in a better way. It has also moved towards better energy efficiency of ships. It is also looking into better energy efficiency of ships, leading to less exploitation of water bodies around the world. So it has come up with energy efficiency regulations, which will in a way control, basically control the way in which waters of the world are used. Also, global sulfur cap has been instituted or brought in by global sulfur cap has also been brought in by IMO, which regulates the amount of sulfur that can be used in fuels, leading to lesser harm to the sea life. Alright, lesser harm to the sea life. There are more such initiatives. ठीक है, you can write about those initiatives. अभी तो हमने environment पे focus किया ना. We can also write about how maritime safety, we will discuss them also, how maritime safety and security will be taken care of. So SOLAS convention, what does it look into? This is again an initiative of IMO. What does it look into? It looks into security of merchant ships. ठीक है. Other than that, it has also codified piracy and armed robbery countermeasures. So now the nations of the world under the leadership of IMO know how to take about or how to take on piracy efforts, and it has helped anti-piracy drives to a large extent. ठीक है, it has helped anti-piracy drives to a large extent. Moving ahead, search and rescue plan of IMO has also helped in creating a safe environment when it comes to sea travel. So in this particular way, what we see is IMF trying to bring in best practices, and therefore trying to create a situation through which sea lines will be safer, sea lines will be cleaner, and therefore more sustainable. Alright, this could be written in the conclusion. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. It was amazing to discuss these answers with you. With respect to your studies, if there is anything that we could do for you, GS Core could do for you, please let us know. We are always there for all the aspirants, and we will try to help you as much as possible. God bless you.